The Tsaritsa is still several versions away, but her future team is already starting to look really interesting. And honestly, the characters coming before her might be giving us some clues about what Hoyeverse is planning for Snezhnaya. Midia, Valeriy and Danica are all currently being connected to Snezhnaya's new reaction mechanics, while the Tsaritsa herself is expected to arrive around version 7.3. But there's still one major question. What kind of character will the Tsaritsa actually be? Will she be a main DPS? A support? A sub-DPS? Or could she somehow combine several of these roles? There are already different reports pointing in different directions. So today, we're going to look at the current information, the characters who could potentially work with her, and most importantly, my opinion on what her future team could actually look like. And as always, keep in mind that this is based on current, unofficial information. Unreleased kits and banner plans can change before release. Let's get into it. Let's start with the obvious one, the Tsaritsa. She is the Cryo Archon and the ruler of Snezhnaya, and current reports place her around version 7.3. Her release alone is going to be a massive event. We've been waiting for the Cryo Archon for years, so I don't think her popularity is going to depend on whether she's considered meta or not. But from a gameplay perspective, things get much more interesting. There have been different reports about her role. Some information has suggested that she could provide strong team utility, while other reports have suggested that she could have much stronger personal damage and potentially play a more active role on the field. And this is where I think we should slow down. I wouldn't call the Tsaritsa a confirmed main DPS. We simply don't have enough reliable information for that yet. At the same time, I also don't think we should assume she's going to be purely a support. Personally, I want her to have strong personal damage while still bringing something valuable to the team. She's the Cryo Archon. I think making her a character who can actually carry her own team would be much more interesting. And some of the characters around her might make that possible. The first character we need to talk about is Danica. Current reports place Danica alongside the Tsaritsa in version 7.3, and she has been described as an electro character connected to the new Stellar Conduct mechanics. Now, I want to be careful here. Her exact kit isn't something we should treat as confirmed. Different reports have already changed details about these characters, so there's no reason to lock ourselves into one specific version right now. But if the general idea is correct and Danica is designed as a support for this new reaction system, she could become very interesting for Tsaritsa teams. Especially if the Tsaritsa herself benefits from these mechanics. And personally, Danica is one of the characters I'm watching the closest. Not because I think she's guaranteed to be the Tsaritsa's best teammate. We don't know that yet. It's because releasing a potential reaction-focused support around the same time as the Cryo Archon would make a lot of sense from a team-building perspective. If Danica ends up directly supporting the Tsaritsa, she could become a very important part of her team. But I definitely wouldn't pull her only because of that possibility. Now, let's go back to version 7.2. Midia is currently reported as a 5-star Electro character connected to the new Stellar Superconduct reaction. Some reports describe him as an off-field or backfield damage dealer. And this is where things get really interesting. If Midia can consistently contribute damage from off-field while also benefiting from the new reaction mechanics, he could potentially fit very well into a future Tsaritsa team. In fact, some current community discussions are already speculating about a team where the Tsaritsa takes the main damage role while Midia contributes from off-field. But this is still speculation and should not be treated as a confirmed team. Personally, I think this is one of the more interesting possibilities. Imagine that Tsaritsa is staying on the field and dealing the majority of the damage, while Midia handles part of the reaction and off-field damage. That could make the team feel very different from a traditional cryo team. But there's an important point. I don't think Midia should automatically become a must-pull just because he might work with a Tsaritsa. If you like Midia himself, that's completely different. But spending your Primogems based on a future team that doesn't even exist yet is risky. Then we have Valerie. Current reports place him in version 7.2 as a 4-star character, with some reports connecting him to the new reaction mechanics and a support-oriented role. And honestly, I think Valerie could be a sleeper character, because not everyone is going to pull every 5-star coming out of Snezhnaya. If Valerie ends up providing useful support for these teams, he could give players a much cheaper way to build around the new mechanics. And we've seen this happen before. Some 4-star characters end up becoming extremely valuable because they fill a role that players actually need. So I wouldn't ignore Valeriy just because he's expected to be a 4-star. However, there's a big problem. The current information about his exact role isn't consistent enough. So, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Valeriy is definitely going to be the Tsaritsa's best support. We need to wait and see how his actual kit develops. So, let's look at the bigger picture. We potentially have Mitya in 7.2, Valeriy in 7.2, the Tsaritsa in 7.3, and Danica around the same time. And all of these characters are being connected in some way to Snezhnaya's new reaction mechanics. That's what makes this interesting. It doesn't necessarily feel like Hoyeverse is just releasing random characters. It looks like they're gradually building a new team archetype. And if the Tsaritsa becomes one of the central characters for that archetype, her team could be very different from the teams we're used to. This is actually the part I'm most interested in. I don't think the biggest question is whether the Tsaritsa will be a DPS or a support. The bigger question is whether she will be the character that brings the entire Snezhnaya reaction system together. If she is, then characters like Mitya and Danica could become much more important. And that's where the Primogem problem begins. Because suddenly you aren't saving for just one character. You might be looking at an entire team. Personally, if I had to predict the direction right now, I would lean toward the Tsaritsa having strong personal damage. Not necessarily because the current information is reliable enough to prove it. It's more about what I think makes sense for her character. She's the Cryo Archon. She's one of the biggest characters in the entire story. So I would personally prefer if she could actually take the field and feel powerful without needing several other 5-stars just to function. At the same time, I wouldn't mind if she also had strong team utility. In fact, I think that would be the best possible design. A Tsaritsa who can deal serious damage herself, while also benefiting from characters like Midia and Danica, would give players multiple ways to build her. And if you only have the Tsaritsa at C0, she should still feel complete. That's very important to me. I don't want a situation where you pull the Cryo Archon and then realize you need 3 more characters just to make her work. Now, let's talk about Primogems. The current roadmap being discussed has 7.1, Vesna and Vodianitsa, 7.2, Mitya and Valerie, 7.3, Tsaritsa and Danica. And that's a lot of characters in a very short period. So if the Tsaritsa is your #1 priority, I think starting to save early is the safest option. You don't necessarily have to skip everyone before her. If there's a character you really want, pull for them. But you should know your priorities. Personally, if the Tsaritsa were my #1 target, I'd probably choose 1 or 2 characters I really want before her, and then stop spending. Because the last thing you want is to reach version 7.3 with no Primogems left. And remember, there will also be reruns. So Snezhnaya is going to put a lot of pressure on everyone's savings.
So, here's my current take.
The Tsaritsa is currently expected around version 7.3, but her exact gameplay role is still uncertain. Midia is currently associated with version 7.2 and the new reaction mechanics. Valerie is also expected around 7.2 and could potentially provide a more accessible support option. Danica is currently associated with the Tsaritsa's 7.3 release window and has been linked to the new reaction system. And when you put all of that together, I think there's a real possibility that Snezhnaya is building toward a completely new team archetype. But I wouldn't start pulling characters purely because of that theory. My personal priority would be the Tsaritsa first. Then, once her actual kit becomes clearer, I decide which teammates are genuinely worth getting. Because right now, we're trying to build a team without even knowing exactly what the centerpiece of that team does. And that's probably the biggest thing to remember. The current information is interesting. The team possibilities are interesting. But none of this is guaranteed. Personally, I'm hoping that Tsaritsa ends up being a powerful on-field character who can also interact heavily with the new Snezhnaya mechanics. If that happens, she could become one of the most important characters of the entire region. And honestly, that's the character I'm saving for.
Who are you saving for right now?
The Tsaritsa, Mitya, Danica, or someone else coming in Snezhnaya? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.